Hello, viewers and viewers. It's Josie. Welcome back to my eclectic movie reviews. And uh, today, the day of recording is April 30th, 2026. And today I am going to be, it's just giving various recommendations of um, of of movies. Uh, a word I saw um thrown 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 recently is hopecore movies, like movies that are hopeful. And so I'm going to be discussing movies that are relatively speaking uh hopeful movies, which I try to seek out as much as I can in times like this. Um so let's start with the I have 10 movies. Um the first one I'm going to talk about is The Art of Love from 1965, directed by Norman Jewison. Paul Sloan, played by Dick Van Dyke, is a painter toiling to make ends meet. He's currently in Paris, but intends on making his way back to the United States. He is engaged to a rich woman named Lori, played by Angie Dickinson. And then one night, Paul and his best friend and roommate, Casey Barnett, played by James Garner, are out drinking, and Casey tells him that he should fake a suicide in order to earn more profit from his artwork. Uh, uh, and then a lady named Nikki Dolan, played by Elke Sommer, jumps into the water to flee from a non-consensual affections from a man. And Paul, Dick Van Dyke's character, jumps into the water and rescues her. And although they both survive coming out of the water, others believe Dick Van Dyke to be dead. And then Dick Van Dyke and James Garner's characters, Paul and Casey, strike up a deal where Paul, pretending to be deceased, paints pictures that Casey, in turn, sells. Consequently, Paul's artwork becomes more sought after, and Ethel Merman plays the nightclub manager, where they show Dick Van Dyke's character's paintings, and she's hysterical. She's a delightful presence on screen, and Casey earns a lot of money from selling Paul's paintings, and then he and Angie Dickinson's character Lori start falling in love, and Paul and Nikki, the woman he rescued, fall in love. The movie is such a riot-filled buddy comedy of errors, filled with twists and turns, romance, and satire of the art world. It's yeah, it's a real gem that should be talked about more. I rented a Kino Blu-ray from the library. It's not streaming for free, unfortunately, but try to as I say with all the titles here, try to see if it's on the shelf at your library. If not, get an interloan. Next up is Beijing Watermelon from 1989, directed by Nobuko Obayashi, the director of Hausu from 77. That wild Japanese horror. But this film is much different. Shunzo and Michi, played by Bengaru and Masako Motai, are greengrocers with a little shop in Funabishi, a city located on the outskirts of Tokyo. They have a son and a daughter. A group of Chinese exchange students are present nearby. Shunzo makes friends with them, and because the Chinese students cannot afford the groceries on their own, Shunzo allows them to purchase food at either a discounted price or getting them for free. Additionally, he assists the students with finding decent housing. Beyond this, he has a genuine human connection with these people. And initially, Michi is skeptical and quite bitter about Shunzo's connection with the Chinese students. Michi believes, from a financial standpoint, that Shunzo must prioritize the shop in order to provide for their family. While it is certainly understandable where she's coming from, it's very fair to be frustrated with her character. However, Michi does eventually warm up to the Chinese students, and this is one of those genuinely heartfelt films that teaches us that we can have harmonious relationships with anyone, regardless of background. And you know, there the bitterness between China and Japan is something that has lingered for a long period of time. The Japanese occupation of China between 1931 and 1945 led to the death of about 20 million Chinese. A highly traumatic time in particular was the Nanjing Massacre. Many Chinese feel that Japan never gave a sincere apology for such brutality, and resentment of Chinese in Japan um, st- um, stems from territorial disputes as well as suspicion and distrust when it comes to China's exertive expansionism and rise as a global economic power. And, you know, looking at this film, the empathy and humanism Obayashi has towards both the Japanese and the Chinese is incredibly sincere. You really leave the film either smiling so hard or crying with tears of joy, or both. And unfortunately, Beijing Watermelon is really hard to find. It is not streaming anywhere. I had to get an interloan from a Blu-ray from Ball State University in Indiana, of all places. Um, it's a Connie releasing Blu-ray. Connie releasing puts out a lot of Asian films on Blu-ray. Um, but yeah, uh, really emotionally uh resonant film. Definitely check it out if you can get access to it that way. Um, so next up is I Have Always Loved You from 1946, directed by Frank Borzage, who also directed History is Made at Night. The story follows a pianist protege named Myra Hasman, played by Catherine McLeod. She is under the mentorship of a hot-headed and temperamental composer named Leopold Goranov, played by Philip Dorn. They form a toxic romantic relationship, and Leopold has flings with other women and continually berates Myra. And Myra's discouraged when he says that women are not fit for the music world. Myra has another love interest named George Samter, played by Bill Carter. He's very kind and supportive of her. They reconnect and have a beautiful relationship, but she takes a break from playing music for a while. I don't want to spoil what happens later. Something happens where Myra is motivated to get involved with music again. This is such a progressive film for the time, depicting a woman with artistic agency. She learns to express herself without losing her sense of personal worth and individuality. And it is a film that reminds you that it is never too late to pursue creative endeavors. I've Always Loved You is available to watch on YouTube. There is a DVD that is perhaps circulating in your library system. I would love to see Criterion or Kino put this out on Blu-ray. It's really worthy of it. Super underrated music film. Next up is an Indian film called Kumati. Sorry if there's a train going by. Kumati from 1979, directed by G. Aravindan. This magical realist story is set in a small Indian village centered around school children, mostly a boy named Chindan and his family and friends. There's a legend in his neighborhood about a boogeyman figure named Kumati, who turns children into animals. The film contains vignettes of the children in various situations that are that that seem highly believable as far as the rural areas of India. And the titular magician comes to town and stirs up trouble. And the story can be looked at as an allegory of oppression in India. And beyond that, it's a story of discovering freedom and resilience. Mm, it's a, and it's a, it's a very, uh, it's a very thrilling coming of age. It's a very, hero. It's, it's a coming of age story. With a, where, with a child hero, and this is a great film to introduce children to, as far as sparking interest in international cinema. Next up is Left, Right, and Center from 1959, directed by Sydney. Oh, wait, before that, about Kumadi. You can watch it on YouTube. I watched it in the Criterion channel, but you could watch it on YouTube as well. So Left, Right, and Center, 1959, directed by Sidney Gilliant, or Gilliant, I don't know how, uh, is that how you pronounce, it's less, not 100% sure, but an election is taking place in a small town in England called Erndale. The Conservative candidate is a TV personality named Robert Wilcott, played by Ian Carmichael. He got into the game through the help of his uncle Lord Wilcott, played by Alistair Sim, prominent Erndale individual. Wilcott's competitor is the Labour Party candidate Stella Stoker, played by Patricia Bredon. She is the daughter of a fishmonger and educated in economics. Their campaigns become when the two fall in love. This is such a witty satire. There's such a rich balance of bite and heart. I'm sorry, but the ratings on Letterboxd for this movie do not deserve to be this low. I don't even think there are that many logs on it. Who cares what people think anyway? This is the problem I have with Letterboxd culture, or is that the pushing of consensus culture, where like people feel gaslighted into not wanting to, like, feeling like they can't like a movie because because of the ratings curve on Letterboxd. And I think that is very, I think that's sends a not a great message. I think especially when it's a comedy, because I mean, IMDb. There's a lot of examples on IMDb there that, like, I mean, I felt like with IMDb, like, if a comedy has like a 5.4, nobody cares. They still think it's funny. If it's like a dumb comedy, but like with Letterboxd, if a comedy has like a 2.9, they're like, "Oh, I can't like it. That means that that's something that." But like, you're it's a long story, but you know, long story short, uh, um, it did trolls on Letterboxd should be kinder to comedies. Anyway, so Left, Right, and Center is available to rent for 99 cents on Amazon Prime, and there's an indicator Blu-ray perhaps circulating in your library system. Definitely check it out. It's certainly relevant to right now. Uh, Next up is an Italian film called Mediterraneo from 1991, directed by Gabriel Salvatores. And what's interesting about this won the Oscar for Best International Film when it came out, yet this film is like forgotten um and like uh not not I'll get to its availability later, but anyway, so as far as the story is concerned, during the Second World War, a team of Italian soldiers are left on a small Greek island. They have the goal of looking out for oppositional ships and keeping the island safe in the event of an onslaught. Because the island initially appears deserted, they keep themselves safe and comfortable there. However, their ships get struck by the enemy, and they are stuck and forsaken. To their surprise, they come across other islanders who are retreating in the mountains and become friends with them. And this is such a heartfelt narrative about friendship, found family, and community. And the scenery of the Greek island setting is gorgeous. It was great that it won foreign language film at the time. Of course, it would have been worthy of nominations for cinematography, costumes, writing, and casting, but the Academy wasn't as international as they are now. And so, unfortunately, Mediterraneo is not streaming anywhere. I rented a DVD, interlo- so try to do the same. So this is an Academy Award winning film. There's no reason why they shouldn't have a Blu-ray release from like Kino or Criterion or what have you. Yeah. So that's Mediterraneo. Next up is Mr. Majestic from 1974, directed by Richard Fleischer. Vietnam War veteran and ex-Army Ranger Vince Majestic, played by Charles Bronson, manages a watermelon farm in Colorado. Watermelons are brought up again. And a local criminal named Bobby Copas, played by Paul Koslow, enters the picture and tries to persuade Charles Bronson to take part in a racketeering scheme where sketchy people would be the ones to harvest the watermelons. Obviously, Vince, Charles Bronson's character, does not want any part of this. He snatches Kopas's gun away from him and uses it not as means of killing Kopas, but rather threatening him off the farm. And then Charles Bronson gathers together agriculturally skilled Mexican migrants. One of them is a union leader named Nancy Chavez, played by Argentinian actress Linda Crystal. Copas places assault charges on Charles Bronson, leading him to go to jail where he meets a mobster named Frank Lenda, played by Al Lettieri. Charles Bronson's character Vince, Renda, and other fellow inmates are supposed to hop the bus to go to a court sentencing. During the arrival of the bus, Renda's fellow mobsters attempt to help him escape, murdering many policemen in the process. Then Charles Bronson hops into the driver's seat in the bus with Brenda, remaining cuffed. And then Charles Bronson intends on reporting Brenda to the police in exchange for being freed so that he can continue his farm work. Then Renda gives Vince a $25,000 bribe for his own freedom, but Charles Bronson rightfully refuses. Then it is up to Charles Bronson and Linda Crystal's characters to save the watermelon farm. And this is such a great underrated action romp. It was quite interesting to see an action film from the 70s with a pro-worker and environmental message. Mr. Majestic is a blast. It's available to watch on Amazon Prime and Tubi, and there's a Blu-ray from Kino Lorber. Next up is speaking with the Spanish theme. My next two films are actually Spanish films from South America. First one being The Pope's Toilet from 2007, directed by Enrique Fernandez and Cesar Charlon. The setting is an impoverished Uruguayan village, this is a Uruguayan film, near the border of Brazil in 1988. The Pope is visiting. Beto, played by Cesar Troncoso, is quite the schemer. He's married with a daughter. As a way to get money, he comes up with a plan to build a toilet for the Pope and the pilgrims to use. In the process, he's reminded about the value of family. The film is an interesting examination of how religious figures are often put on pedestals. People put the job of saving onto outside sources, while it's fair to believe, as I certainly do, that there are forces in the ether/universe meaningful change in the world begins with us as humans. And you know, it's also this film also is a shows appreciation to the working class, and you know, let and and or class, like showing the humanity of them. Yeah, it's this is a this is a very this was quite an interesting discovery. I know you may be put off by the title, The Pope's Toilet, but it's not really so crude as the title may suggest. So unfortunately, again, this movie may be a little hard to find. It's not on streaming, so try it may be circulating in your library system. So yeah, next up is Sidewalls, directed by Gustavo Toretto. This is an Argentinian film. Martin and Mariana, played by Javier Drolas and Pilar Lopez de Ayala, live in neighboring apartment buildings across from each other in Buenos Aires. Martin is a web designer with agoraphobia, and Mariana is an architect grappling with a relationship split. Martin and Mariana are often just about to cross paths, but don't notice each other. The film explores their own separate personal journeys, and the space between these two might be the very thing that brings them together. The film was both of its time and ahead of its time as far as how it tackled technology and loneliness. And Toretto not only illustrates how isolation is a symptom slash casualty of a digitally based society, but also how the design of contemporary architecture is not exactly inviting for community either. Even so, there's still hope for one to find connection, even in the most unlikely and unexpected of settings. Sidewalls is currently on AMC Plus, which I, along with many others, do not have. So I rented a DVD. I got a DVD interloan from the library, and I recommend you do the same for this sweet charmer. And lastly, we're gonna go to 1950 to Stars in My Crown, directed by Jacques Tourneur. The setting is a small southern town called Wellsburg in a post-Civil War America in 1865. A new preacher comes to town named Josiah Gray, played by Joel McCrea. He marries an organ player named Harriet, played by Ellen Drew, and he becomes the stepfather figure to her orphan nephew John Kenyon, played by Dean Stockwell, who narrates the story as an adult. And a series of vignettes unfold involving Josiah's relationship with people in his community. After the well-revered town doctor, Daniel Calbus Harris, passes away, his son, Daniel Calbus Harris Jr., played by James Mitchell, fills his professional medical shoes. Dr. Harris has a romance with the teacher at the school. Mrs. Faith Samuels, played by Amanda Blake. A typhoid epidemic occurs in town, and the faith of Josiah and the community is put to the test. And this is a really wonderful, touching slice of life ensemble piece about a community coming together and growing stronger during difficult times. It's a story that inspires you to do good in your community, regardless of what religion you are. You can rent Stars in My Crown for $3 on Amazon. I rented a DVD, so see if you could get it from your library. Again, if on your shelf, get an interloan, because this movie truly is such a heartwarming gem. So yeah, that will do it for my hopeful or hope for film recommendations from various different decades. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more of my videos, you can click the like button and or subscribe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.